Hello, everyone, and you're very welcome to this webinar, which is focused on the Higher Diploma in Spanish for Teachers at University College Cork. So we'll be looking at this Department of Education funded programme in detail during today's session. We've just gone live, so we'll give it another 30 seconds or so for attendees to join, and we'll get started then. Thank you. Okay, I think we can go ahead and get started. So thanks again, everyone, for joining. My name is Phil Neville, and I'm the ED Postgraduate Recruitment Officer for UCC's College of Arts, Celtic Studies and Social Sciences. And during today's session, you'll be hearing from Dr. Aisling O'Donnell, who's the Programme Director for the Higher Diploma in Spanish for Teachers. And we'll also be joined by two current and past students of this programme who were in your shoes previously before going on to apply for the programme and register. And we will have time at the end for Q&A if you have any questions. So just a bit of housekeeping as well before we get started. The session will be recorded, and we'll share the recording with you after the session so you can watch it back and so that other interested applicants can make use of it too. So there is a Q&A box at the top of your screen, so you can add any questions you might have to that, and we'll pick those up at the end of the session. So thanks again for starting, and we'll go ahead. Thanks again for joining, and we'll go ahead and get started. So I'd like to introduce Dr. Aisling O'Donnell, who's our Programme Director for the Higher Diploma in Spanish for Teachers. And thanks very much, Aisling. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen now so you can start sharing your slides.
Great, thanks, Phil. I'll just share these.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, Phil, you can see those, okay? Great. Ok, bueno, bienvenidos, bienvenidas. Muchas gracias a todos para asistir a esta sesión de información. I'm going to give the session in English just to cater for all of the levels of Spanish that may be within the group. So as Phil said, my name is Aisling O'Donnell. I'm the Programme Director of the Higher Diploma in Spanish for Teachers. The aim of today is just to give you an overview of what the program looks like, what to expect. And I've based my presentation on the kind of questions that have been coming in since we opened the process, the recruitment process this time, and previous recruitment runs that we have had for this program. So we're currently starting our 5th cohort. So it's been running since 2021. It's a 2-year program, as you all know. And so, like I said, this is the 5th intake. So we have had a lot of success over the last 4.5 years. So the objectives of this presentation, I want to take you through what the program entry requirements are, because there are a few questions coming in around the requirements, and just to make sure that that's clear, an overview of the program, and a little bit of a chat about the program delivery. So the program entry requirements, there are 3 main requirements. The first is full Route 2 registration with the Teaching Council. The second is certification of a minimum of an A2 level in Spanish based on the Common European Framework. And the third one is that you cannot already meet the curricular requirements of the Teaching Council to register as a Spanish teacher in secondary school in Ireland. So there are a few layers to these requirements. First of all, some of you may have conditional registration. So unfortunately, conditional registration does not meet the entry requirements. Also, I know that there are Route 1 and Route 3 for registration in the Teaching Council. Again, unfortunately, these do not meet the requirements. There's one caveat. If you are, at the moment, if you have conditional registration, but you're nearly coming to the end of that, you've got the exams that you need or whatever elements you need scheduled during the summer, and you will gain full registration before September 2025, you may be eligible. So if you are in this case and you are thinking of putting in an application or you have put in an application, if you can upload some proof of an exam that will take place before the end of August, put that in as part of your registration, and we can and we'll evaluate everything on a case by case. That's the Teaching Council registration. The next entry requirement is certification of a minimum of an A2 level. Now, we have to guarantee standardization and consistency across our certification. So we can only accept certificates that have been awarded by una escuela de idiomas, una escuela de idiomas oficial, or a DELE exam or a CLA exam. We cannot accept certificates from language schools or certificates of attendance. The reason that we can't accept certificates from language schools is because there is no standardization across privately run language schools. And what is a B1 in one language school may not meet the same criteria as a B1 in another language school. So for consistency, these are the certificates that we can accept. Within that, based on the level of your certificate, there are a few other requirements. If you have an A2 certificate, we need that certificate is no more than 2 years old. If your level of if the level of your certificate is higher, a B1, it can be up until 5 years old. If it's more than 5 years old, depending on how old it is, it may or may not be eligible. If your certificate is for a B1 plus or higher, and it's more than 5 years old, we may call you for a language interview just to verify that you still have a level that's above A2. The reason for these is an A2 level, it is a relatively low level, a pre-intermediate level, which can be acquired within a few years. But also, if you haven't had an opportunity to use your Spanish, you can also lose that level within a few years. So these are the requirements. And again, if you don't meet you must not already meet the curricular requirements of the Teaching Council. These can be found on the Teaching Council website. And I'll also show you the link to that in regards to another element in 1 minute. Okay, so requirements: full Route 2 registration, or if you've conditional registration, that you will have full 2 registration before the beginning of September 2025, a certificate that shows a minimum of an A2 level, that's either from an escuela de idiomas oficial, a DELE, a CLA, if it's A2, that it's less than 2 years old, if it's B1 or B1 plus, that it's less than 5 years old. Okay, so an overview of the program. This is what first year looks like. You can see that across semester 1 and 2, you have your language module, and that's aiming towards a B1 level. So at the end of first year, you will have a B1 level. Then you have your literature and culture modules. So one in semester 1. Sorry, it's a noise. I thought there was I can't see the screen of Teams and my presentation at the same time, so I have to swap between screens. Culture and literature modules. So you have one module in semester 1 and the other 2 in semester 2. And I'll show you what the semesters look like in just a minute. And then we have the semester 3 modules. So I'll go through each of these a little bit individually and show you what the semesters look like. Okay, so first semester, you will be working on 2 modules, the language module and the first of the literature modules. In the second semester, you move up to 3 modules, and we'll look at how this works in one moment. You continue with the language module, which continues across the 2 semesters, and then in the second semester, You will take on Understanding Latin America and Digital Tools and Content Creation for Spanish Language and Culture. And then we have semester 3. So semester 3 is across the summer months. So sorry, semester 2 runs from January to March or April, depending on how Easter falls. So then semester 3 can be started in May. Semester 3 is a little bit different, and I will talk you through each of those modules in 1 second. Okay, so just to clarify, in first year, you're going to do 35 credits. You can see the breakdown of the credits there. So the first year of the program is a little bit heavier content-wise than the second year of the program. And this has been based on looking at the way the spread of the modules for the previous cohorts. And so like you can see, you go in with 2 modules and then it increases to 3 modules across the second semester. And then in the second year, there's a similar breakdown, but you have a language module and a cultural module that spreads across both semesters. And then in the second semester, you will take on another literature module in semester 2. So again, semester 1 has 2 modules and semester 2 has 3 modules. Okay, so, and again, the semester 3 modules have 2 options. So I will talk you through, I might just move straight on and talk you through the semester 3 modules and come back. So each year, first year and second year, the semester 3, which are the summer months, there are 2 options. And these options depend on whether or not you already meet the immersive educational experience requirement for the Teaching Council. So if, I'm just going to share a different page. So if you go to the Modern Languages section of the requirements, which used to be page 7, but is now page 14. Phil, can you see that on your screen?
Yeah, that's sharing through fine as well.
Okay, so here is where you will find the requirements, the curricular requirements by the Teaching Council to ensure that you don't already meet them. And then okay, here we go. So this point 5 is where you will you can see whether or not you already meet the immersive educational experience requirement of the Teaching Council. And this document is on the web page, the program web page. So if we have time, I will show you at the end. Well, I will show you at the end of my section. And I'm just going to share my slides again, and I am a little bit conscious of time, so I'm going to speed up. Okay. Okay, so if you meet the requirements, there is no obligation to do a period of study abroad in Spain or in a Spanish-speaking country. If you don't meet those requirements, then there is an obligation. This can be done in first year or in second year. So what does this look like? The intensive Spanish language consolidation, which is at a B1 in first year and a B2 in second year, it involves 4 weeks of an intensive language course. We organize with our host university and Universidad de Alcalá de Henares, we organize we have a liaison and we organize courses in that particular university. However, if obligations, family obligations, or for whatever reason you can't do the course in Alcalá or on the dates that they have, you can select your own language center. There are a few requirements around that, and it's a case of just having the approval of myself as the program director of the course that you choose. But there is a possibility to choose your own program. We provide a 500 euro grant towards travel, accommodation costs, course costs, accommodation costs. And that is, if you decide to travel both in first year and second year, that grant is available both years. If you already meet the requirement and you don't want to travel, every year there's a project module. In the first year, it's a translation project. Because it's across semester 3, it's self-directed materials. So there are no classes, there are no online tutorials. All the material is available on our learning platform. And there is tutorial support across those months. It can be done in a minimum of 6 weeks and up to a maximum of 3 months. It's usual that it takes between 6 and 12 weeks. Okay, I'm just going to very quickly run back to the delivery. So the way that the program is run is we have 2 days of online classes every week during the semester. The semester is 12 weeks, 2 12-week semesters every year. So in semester 1, September to December, you will have a language class that to date we have split into 2 groups. So you will either have a class at 6 to 7 or at 7 to 8. At the moment, or this most recent cohort, the classes have run on Wednesday. We can't guarantee that it will stay on Wednesday, but this is giving you an idea of what the program looks like. Then on the Thursday, from 6 until 7, there is one of the literature modules. In first year, it will be 5011 in first semester of first year. In the second semester, you will have 2 modules that are running asynchronously. That means that 1 week you will have an online lecture with 5021. The second week you will have an online lecture with 5018, but every week you will have material for both of the modules. So that's in the second semester when you're working on 3 modules. We also provide an extra tutorial on a Thursday after the class. So what that means is we try and make sure that all of the online teaching is consolidated into 2 days, that you won't be there won't be more than 2 days of a commitment any week. Then we have our face-to-face workshops. There are 9 workshops across the academic year, 4 in one semester and 5 in the second semester. They are full days starting at 9 and finishing at 4:30. More or less once a month. We try to avoid secondary school holidays. We try to avoid bank holidays, weekends around the midterm break. We can't always avoid them because the secondary school holidays and the university holidays don't always coincide, but we do our very best to avoid those times when you as teachers will be off and maybe traveling. An idea of the dates, again, these are subject to change. In semester 1 for the previous cohort, we had 2 workshops in September 16th and the 30th, 1 in October and 2 in November. And these are always on a Saturday. Okay, important and attendance policy. The program is designed specifically for working teachers. So lectures, classes are on in the evenings and on weekends. We try and organize meetings, any other commitments in the evenings, on weekends, bearing in mind the work commitment. We do require a minimum of 70% attendance at all classes and at all workshops. And that is stipulated by the funders. So we really have to stick to that. And the only last thing I wanted to tell you about is we work with 2 online platforms, our learning platforms. We work with Canvas, which is the online learning platform that UCC uses. So there will be materials, self-directed materials on there, and then all online classes will take place on Microsoft Teams. And this is the website where you will find all of the information in regards to the modules, the entry requirements, and also that is where, if you haven't already started your application, that is where you will apply. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Aisling. And actually, just before we move on, something as well, just to clarify for the attendees, is that the program is fully funded for eligible applicants, isn't that right? Through the Department of Education.
Yes, it is fully funded. You are required to pay a €250 refundable deposit that is refunded after the 2 years when you complete the program. Yeah, so.
Yeah, I think that was just important to highlight as well. So what we can do now is just actually hear from students who've taken the program already or are currently doing it right now. So I'm delighted to be joined by Alex Murphy and Aoife Lehan, who have either completed or are currently completing this program as well, to give you a bit of an insight on what it's like to be a student studying this higher diploma. So we might start with you, Alex. Would you mind telling us just a bit about yourself and why you decided to study the higher diploma in Spanish for teachers?
Yeah, thanks very much, Philip. Hi, everybody. So currently my school doesn't offer Spanish, so that was a big incentive for signing up for this course. First and foremost was to hopefully bring the subject into the school in the next year or two was one big incentive. I think as well, the way the course is laid out, like Aisling spoke about, was a big draw for it too, in that it is something you can do, you can manage outside of school life as well. And I think just a general interest in languages and in teaching languages drew me to it too. I'm a French teacher already, so having the second language was something that was really enticing about it. So.
Great. And Aoife, maybe we'll pass over the same question to you, just to tell us a bit about yourself, what do you teach, and why you decided to apply for the program. Just unmute there, Aoife.
Sorry. I'm a business and French teacher, but my favorite one would be French. So I always felt I'd like to learn another language. So years ago, I started taking Spanish classes in Instituto Cervantes in Dublin, just as a hobby. And then when the UCC course opened up, I thought it would be a great opportunity to add that then to my CV.
Yes. I suppose, look, you kind of both referred to that you're already teaching languages. It was something you had an interest in as well. Would you be able to tell us a bit more as well about, what it is you enjoyed most about your time on the program?
But for me anyway, I thought there was a good mix of language and culture. Like there was language modules throughout the different years, so we were always kind of improving our level of the language. But I loved learning about the other parts of Spanish and Hispanic culture as well, and especially we did a module about the dictatorship in Argentina. I thought that was really interesting.
I think Aoife said it well there a minute ago too. It's nice being in a space where everybody's kind of motivated and interested in learning the language. Obviously, everybody chooses to do the course. So when you're working with people who have chosen to be in it as well, there's something quite nice about that. You build a really nice community in the course. I know we've made some really good friends through doing it. That's been really enjoyable. And I think the support we get from UCC as well has been pretty top class. So that's made the course a lot more enjoyable as well. Support from Aisling and Kira throughout the first year, but for me anyway has been brilliant.
Great. And did either of you take up the opportunity to travel to complete the immersion experience while you were on the program, or had you done that before already?
So for my first year, COVID was rampant, so I actually stayed in Ireland and I did the translation module. But then the second year, I did the immersive experience, and I actually went to Malaga because there was a lot of people from my cohort who went to Malaga because there was a lot of flights and it was easy access. And we went to the Instituto Cervantes in Malaga.
And I'm going to Barcelona then Saturday week for the month. So I'm really excited about that. It's another big sell of the course as well, having that opportunity to go and getting the grant towards it as well. And you get a lot of support in choosing where you decide to study as well. I'm doing my course in a language school in the centre of Barcelona. So that's brilliant. I'm really excited for it.
Sounds great. So either Malaga or Barcelona are just two options for the immersive experience, along with the other one that Aisling had mentioned as well. And could you maybe tell us a bit, obviously you want to teach Spanish at second level and add it to your portfolio, but could you tell us a bit about how the program kind of supported your future goals as well? Are you hoping to teach both junior cert and even cert level, and how the programs equipped you for that?
Yeah, so I mean, it's great to boost the CV to have an extra language, and I'm currently teaching first year Spanish, so hopefully, yeah, long term that I'll end up teaching more classes.
Yeah, I think what's been brilliant about it for me is that it's really kind of reminded me why I started teaching languages in the first place. I think when you get into teaching initially, you can be kind of caught up in sort of what you need to do every day in the classroom, but we do a lot of methodologies on the Spanish course as well, which I maybe wasn't anticipating, but getting onto it, you learn a lot about digital resources and resources you can use in your own teaching, whether that be for French or for Spanish. So I found that quite helpful throughout. Yeah, so it's definitely helped.
Yes. Well, look, thank you both, Alex and Aoife, for joining us on the session as well, and giving us a bit of an insight on what it was like to study on the course. I'm conscious of time, but I'm hoping people will still be able to stay with us for a few more minutes, and we'll just pick up any questions that are coming into the chat or the Q&A box.
Phil, I see a question that's aimed at Alex and Aoife from John. How did you find the level of workload and balancing this with your teaching?
Yeah, honestly, overall it's quite manageable in that obviously, like Aisling said, you have the 2 live classes every week on the Wednesday and Thursday, but the way the material is laid out on Canvas is really user friendly, and it kind of tracks your progression as you're going through it, and you can do it in your own time as well. So often for me, it would have been when I was traveling to and from Cork, you know, doing that little bit of work on the train or on public transport, whatever it might be. There's a nice flexibility to the work that's required. You normally have tasks based on all the different skills each week as well, so you can kind of decide a time that's more appropriate for doing your listening task, your spoken task, or whatever it might be. So just that little bit of time management, but also treating it, like I think Aoife said well there, like something that you're enjoying and something that you're doing as a skill builder, as a hobby, as a pastime. When you look at it from that perspective, it feels a little bit less onerous. So break it down to small parts, but it's very user friendly. Canvas, I found that brilliant during the first year of the course.
I suppose my situation was a bit different. I was on back-to-back maternity leaves, so I was busy in a different way. But I suppose I found that a lot of the tasks were broken down across the term, so it wasn't all left till the last minute for an exam. You were able to pick up credits as you were going, which was really useful.
Great, thanks both. And yeah, so it does sound like it's possible to kind of find that work-life balance and study balance with the program as you're doing it. And I can see there's another question as well for a deadline for submitting a language certificate as part of an application.
Thanks, Phil. Suzanne, thanks for that question. Basically, if you have registered for an exam, then the CLA, for example, is what we're recommending at the moment, because the turnaround for results is 3 weeks. So if you have registered for an exam, you can, for the CLA, for example, you can upload your proof of registration. If you meet all of the other requirements, we can give you a conditional offer, and the condition to get a full offer will be submitting that A2 certificate. So I suppose the deadline for submitting the language certificate is really when the course fills, or when the course when the deadline for applications is reached, which will be if we haven't filled all the places. So basically, we're filled as applications are coming in. We have a limited number of places, and once that place is filled, the application process will close. If that application number hasn't been reached by mid-August, then the recruitment will close. But because we are using this rolling enrollment, we're suggesting that people start an application as soon as possible, and then anything can be added along the way. I hope that answers your question.
And we have another question as well from somebody who doesn't have Spanish language certification, has lived in Spain for many years, and acquired qualifications to teach in Spain and worked in the education sector there. And can that be used to cover the language competency? That's more maybe a...
Yeah, Rita, thank you for that question. I think the best thing is if you do one of two things. I recognize your name, which makes me think that I have seen it on the application processes. So I will look back at your application. I will look at the documents that you've uploaded, and I will get back onto you directly via email, if that's okay, because we look at everything on a case by case. So it depends on the certificate, and it depends on various things. So Rita, I will go back and look at your case in particular. I can see another question by Sinead. Unfortunately, at the moment, Sinead, we are the only centre that's running this particular HDIP in Spanish for teachers. But we have had people living in all parts of the country. At the moment, we've had people in the past living in Sligo. At the moment, we have someone doing the programme from Donegal, and have had people based in the north doing the programme as well. So it's manageable depending on personal circumstances.
And your question regarding the certification, where you can get that in Ireland. So I know you were saying, Aisling, that the CLA is the one that's online and you get the results a lot quicker. Or if somebody wanted to take an in-person exam, they would have options for that too, wouldn't they?
Absolutely. The CLA, the beauty of the CLA, as well as the turnaround on the results, is it can be done remotely. So on the program webpage, there is a link to the CLA exam, and there you can register. The Cervantes, Instituto Cervantes in Dublin are happy to put together an in-person program or an in-person exam for us at a time that suits anyone who's interested. But other than that, you can do it remotely, and it's worth bearing in mind that the centre does not have to be Ireland. The centre is just the centre that manages the exam. So if you are trying to register for an online exam, go in, and the default is Spain. So if you can find any region in Spain that allows you to register for an exam, that's fine. It does not have to be Ireland, just to bear that in mind. Sinead, there's another question. Unfortunately, Sinead, if you're asking about proof of language competency of Spanish for standardization, I'm afraid that we have to have certification, one of the types of certification. And in fact, I left out a very important university degree. If you have a university degree, a certificate from a university, that is also acceptable as language certification. I can see another question from Suzanne. In fact, I think, sorry, this one is from McInerney. Yes, you can go anywhere else for the language intensive language program. You just need the course approved, because in general, most language centres the courses in most language centres meet the requirements of the module, but unfortunately not all. So it would be a case of having the centre approved, the centre and the course approved. Emma, when will the interviews to check levels take place if your certificate is more than a B1+? Any applications that are currently in process, we are looking at those at the moment. And so application offers are made at the end of every month. There are two priority, and I should have mentioned this previously, there are two priority categories: those that are not currently employed and those that are teaching Spanish out of field. That means someone who doesn't have the Teaching Council registration for Spanish, but is teaching Spanish in their school. So if that is in your case, make sure that that is clear in your application. If you are already teaching Spanish in your school, or if you are not currently employed as a secondary school teacher. So at the end of every month, we're processing the applications throughout the summer, but at the end of every month is when offers, full and conditional offers, will be made.
And that interview could be kind of ongoing. There's no set weeks when you'd have a conversation with yourself.
Exactly. That will be ongoing. Another question here: when will the eligibility for participation in the course be confirmed? We're processing applications all the time. So if your application has been processed and you are fully eligible, at the end of, if your application has already been submitted, offers will be made next week at the end of June. Otherwise, you will be contacted either by ourselves or by the program team or by UCC Apply regarding any documentation that's outstanding. Another question: is there any language degree other than Spanish for language competency?
I think that was when you were referring to if somebody had a degree in Spanish, that would be accepted as a proof of their Spanish language ability. Is that
it needs to be a certificate that was awarded by a university that shows an equivalence of an A2 in Spanish language. Suzanne, is it possible to edit your application after submission? Yes, it's possible to upload new information. You should, unless your application has been completed, which it will show as completed, you should be able to upload anything else. I've been asking people to upload additional information, and there shouldn't be any problem. If there is a problem, my email address is on the webpage. Email me directly and email UCC Apply, and they will ensure that you can upload anything that's outstanding. I have an A2 certificate currently from an Escuela Oficial de Idiomas. At the end of July, I should have a B2 certificate from a university. Should I go ahead and apply? Yes, please. If you are thinking of applying, even if you don't have the information, get your application in. Once an application is in, we can start communication. Please don't sit on an application. The applications are coming in thick and fast. And as soon as the number has been reached, the application process will close. If your application is in, even if you're outstanding information, it allows us to start a conversation. John, if you have an A2 certificate from an Escuela Oficial de Idiomas, that is an eligible certificate. So should have a B2 certificate from a university. Yes, so go ahead and apply, please. Another question regarding conditional registration in November. Unfortunately, November, I'm afraid the program will start on the 8th of September, I think it is, whatever the first Monday. Yeah, the semester one starts on the 8th of September, and so we cannot accept any documentation after that date because we need to have everything, and registration needs to be completed before the program begins. So I'm really sorry about that, Maria. If you are in between contracts, what do you include in the employment form? I would include the date that your contract is. If you're currently employed, the date that your contract finishes. If you're not currently employed, then if you can submit a social welfare document to prove that you are currently not employed, then that's perfect. I can see that there's one more question coming in, and actually I can see that there's a hand up. So while we're waiting for that question, Deirdre, do you want to ask? Phil, can Deirdre unmute herself, or do we have to unmute her?
Check there. Yeah, I'm just gonna allow the mic there. She's able to get her here.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Hi, Deirdre.
Yes, hi, thank you. Good morning. I was just wondering, sorry, my chat is disabled, so I couldn't put the question in. Just regarding the 4-week immersion, I was just wondering, can you do it in 2 by 2 weeks? I was just wondering.
Unfortunately not. The only possibility of that, well, they would have to be 2 consecutive weeks. So unfortunately not. But if it doesn't suit you to travel either first year, like if you can't travel in first year, then you can do the project module, travel in second year. If you can't travel in either year, there is a possibility of completing the 2 project modules, and then you have filled the requirements for the UCC to receive the higher diploma. And then at a later time, you can complete the immersive educational experience for the Teaching Council, but your Teaching Council registration won't be updated until that element, the immersive educational experience requirement, has been met.
Yes, okay. Thank you very much.
No problem. That is the other thing to bear in mind. Thanks for that question, Deirdre. When this program was designed, the teaching requirements for the Teaching Council, basically since the program began, the teaching requirement, the immersive requirement for the Teaching Council has changed. So to meet the requirements of the Teaching Council, you can do that. You can do 2 separate blocks of 2 weeks. Our program, our immersive modules require a minimum of 4 consecutive weeks. So if you decide to do the immersive requirement independently and do the project modules, that is something that you can confirm with the Teaching Council. So for the modules that are part of our program, it must be a consecutive 4 weeks. Okay.
Yeah, just seeing there's a couple more questions as well, and one regarding, do you have to pay for the immersion course? So you would be responsible for paying for that yourself, though there is a stipend towards it.
Exactly. For each educational experience or immersive educational experience, there is a grant of €500 towards your expenses, but all of the other costs are for the student's responsibility. I'm just going to move. Thank you for those questions on the chat. I can see in the Q&A there's a couple of questions.
And I think one actually was maybe for you, Aoife, just query as to what school you went to in Malaga.
It was the Instituto Cervantes in Malaga. So it's out by the beach, actually. So it was lovely.
Oh, that sounds good.
Just on that note, we have kept a record of the schools and language centres where teachers have gone over the last 4 cohorts. So there is also which schools they would recommend and which schools weren't recommended. So teachers have gone to various parts all across north, south of Spain and various different Spanish-speaking countries. So there is access to a spreadsheet of suggested language centres.
Sorry, Aisling, just on that, I went back to Malaga last summer, and I went to Click, which is in the city centre, just to try somewhere different. And I definitely found Instituto Cervantes much better. I didn't find Click as good. So.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, thanks. That's the kind of feedback now that we have. And Click have various centres, and they have been very popular. So it's good to hear that negative feedback. Thanks, Aoife. Another question about family. Yes, of course, many of the teachers have sort of joined their immersive experience as part of their family holiday, or they've gone out 2 weeks earlier and their family have come out after them. The commitment is usually it's 20 hours a week, which is 4 hours a day, maths not being my strong point. It's usually the morning. It's something like 9:30 to 1:30. So it is doable with the family in tow, provided obviously that everyone, provided you can organize yourself. But what I was going to say is that everyone organizes themselves in a different way. But yes, it is doable, and it has been done in the past.
So I think we are just come to the end maybe of the questions that have come in. So great to see that engagement and people kind of thinking ahead and trying to tease out some of those questions that they might have when they're replying. Hopefully that's been very helpful for everyone too.
Phil, can I just add that please feel free to email me a question directly. We will send out, there is a form where you can get, it's on the webpage actually. On the webpage there's a link, or there will be a link where the link to register for the webinar was. There'll be a link to a form where you can submit questions. So if you do have questions, or you're watching the recording and you have questions, please feel free to submit a question via that form.
And yeah, to hear people are finding this useful.
Yeah, I just see there's one more question. That spreadsheet is shared with course participants when in the second semester, in preparation for semester 3. So Phil, will we?
I think we can maybe wrap up for now. Yeah. I'm just going to pop a couple of links in the chat. I'll include those in the follow-up email as well, but just if anybody hasn't had a good look at the program page yet, the link is there. And also if you haven't started your application yet, the UCC apply link is there for you too. So I suppose just to wrap things up, thanks so much everybody for joining us. Thanks to me and Aisling for taking us through the program, the structure, what to expect, and of course to Alex and Aoife as well for sharing your first-hand experience of studying on the program, and great to hear how positive you found it and how helpful and enriching it was. And I'm jealous of you both for getting to head to Barcelona and Malaga on a course like this. So like I say, I'll follow up in about a week or so with a follow-up email with the recording that you can watch back, as well as some of those helpful links. And we'll include the Teaching Council requirements as well, just so people can have a good look at the immersion requirements and things like that too. So thanks very much, everyone. I appreciate you joining, and we'll be in touch again soon. Thanks. Bye for now.
Muchas gracias a todos, todas.